Welcome to Building the Future. I'm your host, Kevin Horick. You can check out the radio version of the show every Tuesdays and Thursdays at 2 p.m. Eastern on WDJY 99.1 in Atlanta. We also air on a podcasting network in Los Angeles called the 405 Media. There's a TV version of the show that airs on KMVT 15 in Silicon Valley at 8 p.m. Pacific on Tuesday nights. Both versions of the show air in other states. For these show times, plus past episodes, please visit the show's website at buildingthefutureshow.com. The music for the show is done by Electric Mantra. You can check him out at electricmantra.com. Welcome back to the show. Today we have Malavika Vivek. She's the executive director and co-founder at Girls Make Apps. Welcome to the show.
Thanks so much, Kevin. I'm so excited to be here.
Yeah, I think... Actually, I'm really excited to have you as well. I think not only are you doing something that I think is super important, but you're doing it at kind of such a young age. But maybe before we kind of get into that stuff, let's get to know you a little bit better and start off with kind of where you grew up or where you're continually to grow up.
Yeah, sure. So I was born and have been raised in Edison, New Jersey.
Okay.
I'm 17 years old.
Wow.
And I go to the Middlesex County Academy.
Okay.
So that makes me a high school senior. And so the school that I go to is a very STEM-focused high school. So all of us have a career major from 9th through 12th grade. So I do electrical and computer engineering at my high school, which is really great because you get this really early exposure to a college-level course. And so this has been great because I always knew that I had an interest in technology. So that's sort of why I decided to go to this high school. And it's really, been amazing because I've had so many great experiences, focusing on a very specific high-level field at a very young age.
Sure. So was there kind of like a defining moment or a few moments that you remember where you kind of got interested in this stuff?
Yeah. So when I was in middle school, that's when I started taking an interest in tech. Before that, I loved math and science, and I loved learning about why things happen and how they happen. But the sort of interest with specifically technology came to me in middle school. I was given the opportunity to attend a summer camp hosted by Johns Hopkins Center for Talented Youth. Okay. And so over the summer, I took a Java programming class. And I was one of the only girls in the class, and I was the youngest person in that class. And, even though all of that was there, I wasn't intimidated because I just really loved the content of that class. And that was my sort of introduction crash course into programming. And from then on, I was kind of hooked. I just wanted to do more with computer science and, learn more.
Okay. No, that's really cool. So walk me through, okay, so you take this class and you learn to program. What did you end up doing after? Did you end up just keep kind of building your own little apps?
So after that class, I just wanted to learn different languages, see the different facets that computer science has to offer. And so after I started learning Java, I also learned more about design and designing web pages by learning HTML and CSS.
Yeah.
And sort of went through that path, building websites and, adding functionality to them, seeing the different ways they could be used. And this was really great for me just because, as I was learning and, having this passion for coding, I also had passions for, social activities like, protecting the environment and, closing the gender gap, things like that they were really interesting to me. So with that, I could build websites that actually showcase this kind of information and share what I really loved with the world. So that was amazing. And so that was pretty much my middle school experience. After I got into high school, I started learning about biology. And, biology was never something I really considered that I would even go near in terms of a career. I was pretty set on software engineering. But after I learned about biology, I was kind of sucked in by the whole systematic aspect of it. I just loved how every system has so many, subsystems, and it went on, for an infinite amount of times. And, I really wanted to see how I could tie biology and computer science together. And that sort of set me on this other research trajectory that kind of began in high school and still ongoing. And, in high school, I was able to do internships at the Children's Hospital of Philadelphia. And currently, my summer internship last summer was at Memorial Sloan Kettering Cancer Center, where I did bioinformatics research, which is like data analytics with cervical cancer. So, just really bridging computer science and biology has been a huge like underlying focus of my life in the last 3 years.
Wow, that's actually really cool because like it's interesting that you say that because I've had like there's people on the show or well, not just on the show that like that are have been spending their whole careers and they're just starting to kind of mash, kind of technology or bring technology into some of these fields that you've been doing kind of in your teenage years. That's actually really impressive.
Yeah, and it's just it's been like being at the right place at the right time. As you said, a lot of these professionals that have been very focused on one field like biology or just computer science. There's like this new trend that's coming about, and there's new technology available that really allows us to bring these fields together. And growing up at this time and having computer science experience that I've been able to get since middle school has put me in a pretty good position to take advantage of this new field that's coming about. And just it's just a very exciting time for the field just because there's so much new technology being created that's really pushing the medicine forward at a much faster rate than I think a lot of people have expected.
Yeah, I 100% agree with you. So I want to kind of dive a little bit deeper into kind of the stuff that you guys are learning in high school because like it sounds kind of, well, I related to you a lot in the sense that like I chose the high school I ended up going to for at least grade 11 and 12 based on their computer program. I didn't like the one that I was in when I was in grade 10. And the thing that, this is going to date me, but like back in the day, we were doing like kind of Flash stuff and Photoshop and, like I was learning kind of all these web technologies. This was in, the early 2000s or so. Right. And so for me, I heard about you and that you're kind of taking something that's obviously like a modern version of that in a high school. But for people that maybe don't understand what STEM is and kind of the stuff that you guys are really learning in high school, do you maybe want to kind of talk about what that is and kind of the stuff you guys are learning?
Yeah, sure. So my high school, as I said, is STEM focused, and STEM stands for science, technology, engineering, and math. And in my school's curriculum, what we have is built-in engineering classes. So in normal high schools, there are electives like choir and art, and
Right.
our school replaces that with engineering. So you can either take electrical engineering or civil mechanical engineering.
Okay.
As I mentioned, I'm in the electrical computer engineering program, and I chose that program just because I had an interest mainly in computer programming and wanted to really stick with the computer science aspect of it. So my school does a lot in the curriculum of this program. So we do a lot of hardware design, and this includes things like DC, AC, circuit design, things like that. Very electrical engineering heavy. And we also have, programming aspects of it where we program with C++, like a normal computer science class, and we learn like algorithm development, things like that. So all of our quizzes and assessments are really, based on how well we can implement the algorithms in a very real world setting.
Sure. Yeah. Like, that's actually really cool because I think, and I like, this is my personal opinion that I think kind of programming should just kind of be taught to kind of everybody, not whether you actually become a programmer or not doesn't really matter. I think understanding kind of logic and how kind of some of the computers and devices that we use every day kind of actually function will, in my opinion, at least benefit people that maybe don't go into it, but at least they can have some sort of appreciation for the stuff they use on kind of a daily basis. And if they can learn some hardware and software integration, like it sounds like you're doing, I think that's even better.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, a lot of the students that go to our school actually do decide not to become engineers at the end, and they choose different career paths, whether it's medical or they want to become lawyers or politicians.
Sure.
And a lot of them still come back and say how much, the school's foundation that it provides, in terms of the leadership and work ethic, and also the curriculum really helps them because it just gives them this, added edge in whatever they choose to do.
Oh yeah, I 100% agree. That's actually quite fascinating. So, I'm curious then, have you decided what you kind of want to do or what you want to do once you graduate high school? Are you going to go off to university? Are you going to start a startup? Have you decided kind of what you're going to do yet?
So yeah, actually, it is very unconventional in my high school not to go to university after, but I actually I've been very heavily considering not going to university,
Okay.
just mainly because of the fact that throughout high school I've had so many opportunities to gain a lot of work experience and, real world experience. And I think that, just working directly after high school in a, software engineering type job, just would be more beneficial to me. And my end goal is really to start a startup. I'm not intending to do it right after high school, because I definitely want to get that experience working in a company first. But, I've had exposure to a lot of tech companies just mainly because my father has actually started a tech company when I was like 9 years old.
Oh, wow.
So I pretty much like lived in a tech company growing up because, he would take so many conference calls and, run the business so much, just from our own home because, when you have your own companies, it's like almost a 24/7 job.
Yep.
And so, just getting exposure to all of it, just growing up, really made me want to do it too. And I made me appreciate the challenge of it so much. So, yeah, that's actually my plan is to not go to college at this point because I really want to, I want to work, I want to get that experience, and I want to start a company.
No, I think that's great. And just having your dad as a mentor and Reining It ladies, I've had them on the show and that's how we kind of met. And I want to cover that later. But just having even somebody like in your immediate family kind of that's been through it, I think is very, very useful. But
Absolutely.
I really want to talk about you're the executive director and co-founder at Girls Make Apps. So how did Girls Make Apps come to be, and why did you decide to start this up?
Okay, so yeah, Girls Make Apps started I think at the end of 10th grade in high school.
Okay.
And it sort of began because my co-founder and her name is Akshaya. She's from North Brunswick, New Jersey, and we're both high schoolers. We're both the same age, and we met actually on the National Center for Women in Information Technology's Facebook group because we've both been awardees of the organization. And we met on the Facebook group, and we realized, how much we had in common. And we decided that both of us, had this huge passion to close the gender gap in tech. And with the help of NCWIT, which is just the abbreviation of the group, we decided to start this. And it started out as an 8-week program, actually, just a workshop for middle school girls to help them build Android apps.
Okay.
And the program was just, it was really successful. And these middle school girls that came in with no experience in technology left the program publishing Android apps on the App Store.
Sure.
And, it was amazing because, they were at such a young age, and at the end to see them so confident and see them, so passionate about pursuing, a career in tech, it was amazing for us to see. And we just realized at that point that we couldn't stop there. We had to, grow and, spread this to more middle school girls and high school girls around the country. So then we launched it as an official organization, and we were both juniors in high school at this time. And, a lot of it is really thanks to NCWIT because, without their support, we really wouldn't have been able to accomplish that much. But we got in touch with a bunch of tech companies, from Microsoft, which helped us launch our 8-week workshop, to Oculus, which helped us with our virtual reality workshop in the Bay Area. And we were able to create this network of, high school and middle school girls that were coming to our workshops and our camps and, coming in with no tech experience or very limited tech experience and leaving with real feeling that they had a place in tech. And this was something that even if they chose not to go into a full-fledged career in it, this was something that they could have an interest in. So that's sort of how all of this started, and it's just grown from there. Last summer in late June, we actually had our first hackathon, and we're planning on doing it again this year. It's going to become like an annual event. It was an all-women hackathon, and it was one of the biggest all-women hackathons on the East Coast, with over 150 high school and college women in attendance.
Wow.
And they built tech products over a 24-hour period and competed for prizes, which was really, really awesome to see.
No, that's really cool, actually. Like, I think the thing is, and I think age or kind of gender doesn't really matter when it comes to, like, I think there's nothing more rewarding when you basically you load Android Studio or some other program up, and it's literally like there's nothing there. It's just like a white canvas, right? And then you create something over a few hours or days or whatever, or weeks, and then you actually get it either on your phone or into the Google Play Store or the App Store or something, and then you can actually like play it on your phone. Like, I think that's one of the most rewarding kind of feelings, especially for somebody that is new to the industry, to basically say like, look what I built in a couple of days, and like you can tell your friends and family to go like download it on their phone, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's exactly the kind of experience that a lot of our middle school girls had in that first workshop, making these Android apps and, exactly, telling their friends and family to go download it, and their friends and family actually seeing it work and being like, wow, like I have no idea how you did this and I have no idea how to do this, but you must be really, really smart if you did something like this. And, that's the kind of experience we want to provide for girls, because when they see how they can create things and how it's not hard, and, we can help them, and there's going to be all of this mentorship and support, and there's this real community out there for them, it gives them a really positive first experience in tech, and that's the sort of thing that we want to provide.
Sure. And I think the other thing too, and you kind of touched on this, but I think we should kind of reiterate it, is like there's big companies that are willing to kind of back organizations like yourself. Like you mentioned Oculus and Microsoft, and I noticed you had an event at Spotify. Like these are all companies that pretty much, if you've been online, you've heard of, right? Like a lot of people have used Microsoft products, or they use Spotify on a daily basis, or, like so I think the other thing too is like a lot of these big companies are looking to get more diversity in kind of tech. And I know it's kind of a trendy topic, and I think it's great that like somebody like yourself is actually doing this. I also think that the fact that you're doing this at such a young age, and you're already a nationwide nonprofit organization, that's like a tremendous accomplishment.
Yeah, thank you so much. And, we didn't exactly start this out and, plan to go nationwide. It sort of took off on its own just because we saw how many girls were responding to this and how many girls we could really impact. And, as Girls Make Apps has grown, we just continue to, try to really broaden our outreach and, broaden our impact. And we're still trying to scale and get bigger in the coming years. Our annual hackathon, Bite Hacks, is happening again this year. And so right now we're in the planning process for it, just to figure out exactly where we're going to host it and stuff like that. But yeah, big companies are really willing to sponsor us and, back us, as you said, because they see how much of a benefit this is going to be for them as well. By supporting young women in tech, they're really supporting the next, movers and shakers of the world. So we're really, hoping that more companies see Girls Make Apps as, the initiative it really is, and help bring about, a new generation of women in tech.
Sure. So if people want to maybe reach out to you guys and get involved in some way, maybe they want to sponsor or offer up their space, where can they find out more information and actually reach out to you?
So we do have a website. It's girlsmakeapps.org, and our website links to our Facebook page, which we respond to immediately, any messages on our Facebook page. So that's a great way to reach out to us. And we have an email too. It's girlsmakeapps@gmail.com. And so they could reach out through us through any of those channels, and we will respond.
Sure.
And we also have Instagram and Twitter. So we've seen people tweet at us every now and then, and we'll respond to that as well. So yeah, any of these ways, we're very reachable.
No, I think that's really great. So you've covered, you guys do obviously like hackathons and Android apps. Do you guys teach anything else? Like, do you teach any like HTML or CSS or content management system stuff? Or are you just kind of focused on the hackathon Android stuff right now?
Yeah, actually, we do teach HTML and CSS. So recently, we actually, just a couple weeks ago it ended, we had our first web development camp for middle school girls, and it was actually in Conshohocken, Pennsylvania.
Okay.
And the reason that this was so special for us was because we really mainly focused on bigger city areas like, New York City and the Bay Area, where tech is already, like partly integrated into a lot of school curriculums, and, just the girls in those areas have more exposure to tech through Girls Who Code clubs and things like that. But, in areas like Conshohocken in Pennsylvania, it's much more suburban, rural area, and the girls in these areas don't have as much exposure to tech, and they don't really see it as much of a viable option for them. So getting into this area was something that we were a little apprehensive about at first, just because we weren't sure how much of a response we would get. But by partnering with one of a really great company in the area called Workshop Mercantile, we were able to get into a lot of the schools and talk about Girls Make Apps and just talk about what we do. And we received a lot of support from, teachers in these schools, the math and science teachers and guidance counselors and principals. And we had about 35 girls enrolled in our web development workshop. And
Wow.
that was, it was a short workshop. It was only 3 weeks. And by the end of this workshop, all the girls said that they did have an interest in computer science. We always make them take a pre-survey and post-survey just to make sure, what we can do better and things like that. And it was just amazing to see, because they built websites in this period of time, and they pitched them like a actual business session. And it was just really great, because these middle school girls they gained so much confidence by creating something themselves.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree. And I think, and her name always escapes me, and maybe you remember, but I think the thing that people forget is the actual first programmer was female, right? And I always found that I've always found that kind of fascinating. How it started with a female, but now it's such a male dominated industry, right? And organizations. Are
you talking about Ada Lovelace?
Yeah, there we go. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right? But I think organizations
absolutely.
like you
guys I completely agree.
Are trying to change that back, right? Or at least even it out a bit more.
We're trying to, educate. Exactly. Just part of our programs, it's more than just, beyond the technology, beyond the technical aspects of it. We're trying to show these girls that, whatever they see portrayed by the media as the image of a computer programmer, which is just a guy coding in his basement, that sort of isolationist guy image, we're telling them that that's not what tech looks like, that there are many faces to tech, there are many applications for tech, and there's so much they could be doing, and they can do anything they set their mind to. We just really want to show them how inclusive tech can be.
Sure. Well, and I think the other thing too, and I was reading some articles on this over the last few years, is I think let's just for argument's sake, let's half the population is basically female. I know it's not exactly half, but just for argument's sake, right?
Yeah.
That I think the thing that people sometimes forget, at least kind of girls or females that I've talked to, is how they can bring tech into kind of girl industries that are for other girls or women, right? I think that's a really big market that has not been tapped. I'm not a person to build an app that would do something in the makeup space, for example, because I know nothing about that. But somebody that would be big into that, which, not saying, guys wear makeup sometimes, but I think you'd have somebody that was really passionate, and is probably a female, should probably build apps in that space compared to guys, right? Or they're going to need guidance from females, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And there's so many niche markets that that are female dominated. A lot of them, being makeup and fashion. Currently in our world, there are more women in those spaces that actually, there's so many ideas that they have that would be applicable with technology, and showing them how diverse tech is and how many ways you can use it as a tool to better whatever industry you're part of is something that we really aspire to.
Sure, and I think by teaching people how simple it can be to get a simple app out there, right? And they don't need to spend thousands of dollars, or even you don't even really need to spend hundreds of dollars. If I remember correctly, and correct me if I'm wrong, it's you pay $25 one time to submit to the Android store, and then all the tools are basically free.
It's a pretty small fee, yeah.
So
yeah, exactly. And a lot of the tools are open source, and most of the software and everything we use in our programs is free as well. So we try to show them just how easy it is to pick up something and just code, and how many resources that are completely free that are available on the internet that they can use to help them create whatever it is they want to create.
Yeah, exactly. And they can get maybe the first version out pretty simple, but over the coming months you can add more complexities and maybe reach out to somebody online, or there's lots of tutorials out online about things, and maybe they take another one of your camps. There's a bunch of ways to do this stuff kind of on the cheap that I think if you just kind of leverage the internet and the free tools out there, and like I work at a startup now, like we leverage free tools every day, all day, right? Like,
Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah.
So I think the thing that's really nice that I think some people don't think about or really know is like the Android Studio is the exact same version and it's free for everyone, whether it's the first time you've opened it or you've built like 1,000 apps, right? And everywhere in between. It's the exact same tool set, right?
That's exactly true. And it's all available to you, for free. And it's just amazing. You know, as you said, there's a lot of girls, especially that, you know, haven't had the same exposure that, you know, like people like me and my co-founder have had. And they don't know how many tools are available. So when we tell them, we're like, oh, this is completely free. You have all of this at your disposal. They're like amazed, and they just, you know, their eyes light up because they see like all the possibilities in front of them. That's really what we try to, you know, show them and try to say to them too.
Yeah. And like, I know we keep talking about Android because that's kind of what you focus on. And like Google does a really good job at supporting kind of students, even if they want to go to their developer conference. I know it's like way cheaper. And, you know, and there's tons and tons of like free online tutorials on YouTube, or, you know, just Googling around, you can find tons of this stuff, right? So if they can't make it to kind of one of your events, right? I think, or once they've been to an event and they're like, I really want to learn how to, I don't know, do this certain thing. Like pretty much at this point, Android's been around for almost a decade or about a decade now. Pretty much everything you want to do has been done, and the code's probably free online.
Yeah, that's very true. You know, just telling them about all the resources that are available, you know, even with our web development camp recently, showing the girls just how many, you know, just like W3 schools and different, all these different websites that are available that they can just use to, you know, build whatever they want. Just showing them how much is out there is really one of the main points of our camp. Because, you know, most of our camps are a few weeks at most, you know, and the way we found to be able to, you know, scale that impact and really make it bigger and keep these girls coding once they build something in our camp is to show them how many resources are available, and also to make ourselves available. You know, even after the camp, we get emails from these girls sometimes just asking for tech help or just advice about, you know, what like sort of electives they should choose if they want to major in computer science in the future, things like that, you know, and we're always available to help. And we've told them that we're going to be mentors for them as long as they need us to be.
No, I think that's actually really good advice, because I think that's the other thing is some people, and I would have put myself in this boat when I was in kind of junior high and high school, is I didn't realize you could actually make a living doing this, right? Like it sounds kind of weird now maybe because, you know, everybody kind of has a smartphone, but you can actually make a real good living making apps or websites or both, or building software, right? Like there's tons. I would put that's what I do for a living, is I work at a startup, right? And that's my day job.
Yeah, exactly. And it's awesome just how many different ways they can use programming in their lives and, you know, really make it a career that's both fun to them and also really just useful to so many people.
Yeah, and even like there's nothing wrong with having it as a hobby as well. I think some of the funnest projects that I've ever worked on were just like me and a buddy building something that solved a little problem that we had, right? Or the hackathon thing you mentioned. But I am curious, when you say kind of your programs are weeks long, is that a few hours, a few times a week? Or just so people are clear, how much of a time commitment is, you know, like a 2 or 3 week actual course that you guys put on?
Yeah, so a lot of our programs run during the school year, like our web development campus during the school year. So we met for 3 Saturdays continuously for about 4 hours each Saturday. So it's like a 12-hour time commitment altogether. Yeah,
okay. That's what I wanted to make sure people understood. Because when you say 2 or 3 weeks, they're like, well, I can't take 2 or 3 weeks off school. It's like, no. It's just like 3 Saturdays for 4 hours, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly. It was a Saturday program.
So I'm curious then, where do you kind of want to take this, or do you kind of just want to see where it goes?
Yeah, I mean, right now, we, as I said, we didn't really go into it with any expectations. It's now that we're seeing it grow that we're even starting to consider exactly where we want this to go. I think definitely expanding more from a national perspective and getting more into these areas that I'm talking about. Conshohocken was our first experience getting into a non-big city area and getting more into these rural areas where tech isn't emphasized as much, and just because we feel like that's somewhere where our programs could really be used, because larger organizations like Girls Who Code, who we're often compared to, they are a lot more involved in bigger city areas. So even when we were doing our workshops in New York City, a bunch of our participants were also going to participate in middle school Girls Who Code clubs, where they would get this exposure and be able to continue in tech and, have all these options available to them. And, in Conshohocken, obviously we didn't see this as much, because the girls were like, oh, yeah, no, my school doesn't offer any computer programming classes or any computer science classes or anything. And so this is sort of their only way to get that, entrance into tech.
No, yeah, okay, that's interesting. So for maybe parents listening that are thinking of getting maybe their son or daughter's kind of interested in this stuff, is there any kind of hardware that you kind of recommend that people either come to your programs with, or that they should kind of get to actually code on? Because at least in my experience, you don't need to spend a lot of money to get like a laptop or a desktop to actually get your kids coding.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, most of our programs, we just recommend that students bring just a laptop. We don't even ask them to have any software preloaded on it, because all the software we've used so far has been free, and we've just walked them through the installation process, just so that's not something that makes them, intimidated at all. And so, especially at the middle school level, with HTML and CSS, Notepad, which is available on most laptops that comes preloaded, is something that they can very easily get started on. And so things like that, we always tell them to just bring a laptop. But in a lot of our programs, we've been able to provide laptops as well, because of with help from a lot of our sponsors.
Sure.
So in our program at Microsoft, which was the 8 weeks long App Inventor Camp, that Microsoft actually, where we held the program, they sponsored us, and they gave us surfaces that all the students could use throughout the duration of the program, which was really, really great of them. But, even going home, a lot of our students have laptops or desktops that they're able to use, which is great now, just because of how common of an item it's sort of become. And just with that, there's so much you can do. So I think only if you get into a higher level of programming, like with something like virtual reality and stuff, there's more supplies that you sort of need, like hardware that you need to really program, virtual reality apps and stuff like that. But with basic things, like making Android apps or building websites, a laptop's pretty much all you need to get going.
Yeah, and you don't realistically, just to kind of reemphasize your point, like majority of the software that you need, if not all the software, is free. So you don't need a crazy expensive computer, and you don't really even need to spend any money on software. The only thing you really need to invest is some time and trial and error, really.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's just so great how many resources are available for free online now. Just even with the girls that, take our camps, it's really great, because with a few weeks, we're able to give them a solid, foundation and introduction into it. But then, after our camps, we always send a, solid recap email after. And in that, I always put courses that they can take online to continue learning more advanced features and continue building whatever they created in our camps. So we really try to emphasize the continuity aspect of it.
Sure. So walk us through kind of the types of people that actually teach the program. Are they people that work in the industry? Are they volunteers? Well, they're probably volunteers, but what types of people do you usually have that actually teach these programs or these camps?
So a lot of our primary teachers have been like people like me, high schoolers, high school women that have had a pretty early start into tech, either due to their parents being in tech or just, getting opportunities at like a middle school age. And, with a lot of the camps on the East Coast, my co-founder and I have sort of partnered to create the curriculum and teach it ourselves. And we've always had, guest speakers and guest volunteers that have been women in the industry, which has been really great because this way the girls are taught by sort of almost peers, because, there's not a big age gap between middle school girls and, high school girls.
Sure.
And so that really adds like a really friendly aspect of it where they feel like they're among friends, and it's friends that are teaching them. But then they get to see these guest speakers that are women in industry talk about their experiences and how they got there, which is really inspirational to them at the same time.
No, yeah, that's really cool, actually. So how much did these camps kind of cost on average?
So it depends on the location, absolutely, because it depends on like the level of sponsorship we can get. So for App and Adventure Workshop, it was a very low cost program. We had about $2,000 in sponsorship from NCWIT, and we used that just for the venue aspect of it, and Microsoft provided those services at no cost at all to us, which was really great. And so we used that to also buy prizes for the girls at the end of the program, so that they would have a lot of motivation going into it as well. So it depends on the program type, and the duration of the workshops. And in Philly we partnered with Workshop Mercantile, and we raised quite a bit of money just to rent out the venue. So usually if we have to pay for the venue, that's usually our biggest cost, because the curriculum we create ourselves, so that's completely free. And venue and buying prizes for the girls to make sure that the camp is just a really great overall experience, those are usually the biggest costs.
No, I think that's great. So do you have any kind of up-and-coming kind of camps or workshops? You mentioned the Codathon, but do you maybe want to mention a few up-and-coming things that you guys are doing maybe between now and, kind of into spring, early summer?
Yeah, so yeah, actually, the hackathon has definitely been, one of the biggest focuses just because of how large scale of an event it is. And definitely one of the things we're thinking about doing is, it's been a while since we've done another event in the Bay Area, so we're definitely considering getting back into there. And we're thinking along the lines of doing a one-day workshop in Delaware, actually, because one of the girls who came to our Philly camp, or the Conshohocken camp, she lives in Delaware, and her mom is helping me start like a one-day workshop sort of thing there, just to give the girls like an introduction to STEM, and talk to them about being interested in STEM and like the career opportunities available, because we haven't done anything in that area as well. And her mom was telling me how similar to Conshohocken, the girls in that area don't get a lot of exposure to tech or really know what tech is as a field. So we're thinking about doing things like that, but all that information is going to be updated on our website. So all our new events will definitely go there. So if there's anyone listening that's in one of these areas and wants to, enroll their child in one of our camps, our website is the best resource for all of that.
Sure. No, I think that's really great. So how did you get in contact with Saki and Angela from Reining It?
Yeah, so that, again, was part of NCWIT. Right now, Angela works for NCWIT, but before she was a school counselor. And I'm not exactly sure. I think she created the Reining It Facebook group and then invited a lot of the girls that were on the NCWIT group to the Facebook group. And so she also, I think I also got in touch with her personally after I was named a She++ Pound Include Fellow. So She++ is a Stanford Women in Tech organization, and they do a Pound Include Fellowship annually, which basically invites about 30 to 35 high schoolers in the country, and they get flown out to Stanford and present their nonprofit work at Stanford. Wow. And also get to network with a bunch of people in the tech industry. So that was an amazing experience. And being one of those fellows put me in contact with Saki and Angela. And that's how I was featured on Reining It shortly after that. And then after that, it's sort of been a great experience. Angela's been really great connecting me with different opportunities and giving me a chance to speak about sort of my experiences at the tapestry workshop for school counselors at the University of Virginia last year, and also at the American School Counselors Association workshop in Colorado. And, just sharing my experiences and talking about how we can bring more diversity and inclusivity to classrooms, especially in a tech-centric time, was really great, because I'm really hoping that, with this, the impact that I can make is just so much more.
Sure. And I think too, do you have any schools reaching out to you to say, how can we bring this stuff to their school? Because it's got to be something that they're all kind of thinking about, or at least a lot of them are thinking about.
Yeah, absolutely. And, the interesting thing with that is a lot of it comes from the parent level, with parents seeing our workshops and camps and then reaching out and being like, how can I bring this to my school's attention? And, how can I help get something like this implemented in the school? And, I've been able to sort of help out with CS for All, which is, the nationwide initiative to bring CS curriculum into schools. I helped them out with their social media a little earlier this year. And so, with that sort of initiative, really working to bring tech into schools, I think that's pretty much what I can really do to help and really bring that about. Because, it starts at a parent level, the parents showing interest in this, and then schools getting on board. And I think, especially in these times, we're seeing that shift happen a lot, where schools are starting to really realize that the future is in tech, and that having computer science classes at the middle school and elementary school level is something that's just really crucial, and that's going to put students in this country ahead.
Yeah, I 100% agree. I think that's actually, that's really cool that you're involved in all this stuff, but we're kind of coming to the end of the show. So I really want to close with mentioning where people can get more information about yourself, Girls Make Apps, and anything else you want to mention.
Yeah, sure. So my Facebook page is the easiest way to reach me, and I'll just put my email, I guess, along with this interview.
Sure.
And I could just send that to you after, and maybe you could just put that when you're publishing it.
Yeah.
And so that's the easiest way to reach me. And also, I'm obviously available through all of Girls Make Apps' our website is girlsmakeapps.org, and our Facebook page. Those are the fastest and easiest way to reach us. And, any comments or questions about Girls Make Apps, we're definitely happy to take. And anything we can do to help more girls around this world, around the country and the world, just get into coding, and, anything we can do to give them their start is something we'd be happy to do.
Well, I really appreciate you taking the time out of your day to be on the show, and I look forward to keeping in touch with you, and have a good rest of your day.
Yeah, thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you. We'll talk soon. Okay, bye.
Okay, awesome. Thanks. Bye.
Thanks for listening. Please visit the show's website at buildingthefutureshow.com. Also check us out on Facebook at Building the Future Show, and follow us on Twitter at Building Show. The music for the show is done by Electric Mantra. You can check him out at electricmantra.com, and keep building the future.